Hello. Now we're gonna have to hope today that the stream doesn't cut out for any reason. I'm not gonna do it for too long today, just 30 or 40 minutes or so. But I've been having a few internet problems earlier with stuff cutting out, but luckily not when I was uploading a video or anything. But just as a pre-warning, if the stream cuts out, that will be why. And hopefully you'll get enough people watching this stream. As I said, it's not going to be on for massively ages. I wasn't really planning on doing one today, but I thought I had a bit of spare time. According to my end, the stream's still working fine. If it buffers, just refresh the YouTube page. It totally depends on what country you're in. I've done videos on this. I haven't heard of it at all. I'll have a quick look actually. So there's some sort of survival horror thing, is it? Looks very strange. Alright, glad you liked the video. I've just been mostly relaxing today because obviously I was working 18 hours at the weekend, so today was a day of, not getting up very early. I've done a video on the War Emergency Guidebook now, but that won't be live for a while yet. As I said in the video, the only mask I've ever heard of melting on styrofoam is the Yugoslavian one. So I wouldn't particularly worry about it. I would have no issue displaying any of my masks on styrofoam, because I wouldn't personally worry about it. I just wouldn't display rare masks on it, that's all. Yeah, you can see people sell things for stupidly inflated prices anywhere. Yeah, you mean the Skid Mask 90, whatever it's called, which is a Fushida mask. Was it you asked me that the other day? Because I said the other day, no, I won't get it on release or get it on the sale, because I'm not a massive fan of Metro. It depends on what I'm filming, obviously. The length of the video, it has to at least be that long. So if it's a 10-minute video, it's been at least 10 minutes of filming. Often I film a bit more and I cut out stuff if there's stuff that interrupts the video. So obviously that's more time. Then there's other factors as well, like editing. Editing doesn't normally take me very long because I'm pretty fast at using Sony Movie Studio. So unless I'm doing anything fancy of the editing, that doesn't take very long at all. Things like camo tests, where I've taken loads of photos, actually take a lot longer to edit than regular videos, but then I have to render them, and that takes just over twice the time of the video to render. So if it's a 10-minute video, it would take like 21-22 minutes to render, that sort of thing. Okay, yeah. No, I was just getting, in the last stream, I was getting lots of questions like that. Are you going to be buying like Metro when it comes out and all stuff like that? No, I haven't seen Rush Hour. No, my Yugoslavian mask hasn't melted, but I know it's a mask of a reputation for melting. Which one's the C3 right helmet? Yeah, if I get a mask, I'm obviously going to do a review of it. I'm not going to get a mask and never do videos on them, but as I've said, I've never seen a PPM88 sold for reasonable money. They've always wanted stupid amounts of money for shipping. They're not really rare, the Forshida F2s, it's just they cost a lot. When you say a dehydration system, do you mean a hydration system? Because I doubt they have something on there on purpose to dehydrate you. No, if irradiated material existed, I wouldn't drink it. Well, when I go to those places, I always do videos on them, but obviously I can't afford to, every day or every time I want to film a video, go out to somewhere like that. What about atomic bombs and radiation? Have you seen the Castle Bravo test? I think there's a good bit in Trinity and Beyond, but that's in HD. I'll post it in the chat if you haven't seen it. I'm just trying to find a video. This is a typical thing when I want to link a video in my thing. Alright, I found it. You don't actually get them coming up. There you go. I've done a video on it, so just look it up. It's the Cyma one, which is the licensed M4 copy. Okay. Well, I don't have an American C3 helmet. I'll have a look at it. Oh yeah, looks fairly interesting, but looks pretty similar to the British one I've got. Just a different type of visor on it. Yeah, FM12, $32 is a very good deal. Well, in theory, if it's the same number of straps and they're in the same places, if you can thread them through the buckles, you can get other straps working. Well, if I find more stuff like that, Retnik, yeah, I can do videos on it, but I don't generally find weird stuff like that. It's just now and again you might be reading something and you get a mention of stuff like that. Yeah, mostly just use a damp cloth to wipe out a GP5. Maybe use rubbing alcohol with a cloth, or like Windex or something like that. Well, again, this is the question that gets brought up in every stream, like I've already answered. If I see one for a good price, of course I'll do a video on it. If I don't see one for a good price, I'm not going to spend stupid amounts of money to get a mask. Yeah, but you could probably just get a good NATO mask with filters. Well, as I said before, I like prog rock, which is kind of a dead genre of music, so you don't really get any new prog rock, but I really like Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, which is a prog rock concept album. Newer stuff I like Fine Fluke, but that's still not new music, because I don't think they've done anything since the early 2000s. Yeah, I think people are getting mixed up. The M15 is the military mask, the civilian mask is the 4A1. Now, as I said before, the GP5 is fine if you can get a better filter for it, not the one it comes with. I've got a few gas masks that have all the accessories. Off the top of my head I can't think what they are, but I think my PMK1 came with all the accessories. Poland uses the MP6 now. Which looks pretty cool, but sadly I think it's going to be quite a while before they turn up as cheap surplus. I don't really have any. I mean, I've got some World War II helmets, but I can't really review them, and I'm not going to break them testing them. I'm going to do a video soon on my updated helmet collection, because since I did my last helmet collection, I've got a Mark 7, the Kevlar Commando helmet, and the British Mark III Riot helmet. £30 or so. The FMJ05 is actually a good mask if you get it in your size, but sadly a lot of sellers don't list the size, so when you get one you might just get it in very small or something. Favourite World War II gas mask would be the light anti-gas respirator Mark II. I'm pretty sure the Mark II was out by the end of World War II, if not then the Mark I. A close second would be that Finnish civilian mask. When you say M59, do you mean the M56 East German helmet? I'll look up M59 helmet in case you're... That's the Yugoslavian one, the M59. You're thinking of the M56. Korea, because the war kind of was won, not just dragged on for ages before losing. Thicker rubber, because obviously it's less likely to degrade or rip. No, the SCHM is not an East German GP5, it's an East German infantry mask. It's an SHM41, not a GP5, they're not the same thing. GP5 is an SHM62, I believe, without actually looking up the number. It's like saying the AK-47 and the AK-74 are the same thing. What about the Fallout universe? It's a sort of reference to a boy and his dog and everything else. All of them. If you just want masks to collect any, it doesn't really matter. If you want one to use, then I'd say something like the SHMS. Sadly, a lot of East German surplus is drying up. Strict always keeps getting more and more expensive. It depends on which variant of the Merkava, because there's quite a lot. There's not just one Merkava, there's a series of them. M1A1's a pretty, good tank other than the stupid engine in the Abrams, but depends on the variant of the Merkava. Yeah, it's not. If you look, I did a video called, I think it's called something like "Only One of These Masks is a GP5" or something like that. And in that video, you can see the difference between SHMs and things like that. But the GP5 is the one that came along later and is basically a cheapened SHM41 design. A lot of people like it, but I don't own a PPM88, so I can't actually say. Oh yeah, and if you're watching a stream, please click like, because I think it helps YouTube send it to more people. When nobody likes or dislikes a stream, it doesn't really do share it, because unfortunately, just because you subscribe and click the bell doesn't mean you get notifications anymore for my videos, which is always irritating. No, the M15's different kind of rubber. It's a bit less pliable, the M15's rubber. L1A1 SLR. I don't really have any big fears, to be honest. I'm just going to say SU-57 because I don't like the F-35 at all. Cool. Yeah, annoyingly, there's not like a timeline on the site that has all the SHM masks on there, but you've got what was just called the SHM or SHM1, which was the Soviet mask that came out, I think, around the end of World War II. It has the same hood style design as all the others, but it doesn't have Tissot tubes in the inside as far as I'm aware. Then you've got the SHM41, like the GP5's dad basically, which was the standard Soviet and Warsaw Pact infantry mask. a bit like how the OM14 is the Polish variant of it. Then you've got obviously the GP5, which is SHM62 or 62U. I think the U just means it's a cheaper, later gen version of the GP5. And I think the SHM66 is the GP5M. But yeah, basically the SHM series is pretty big. But then, like, the SHM is like the technical name for all the masks, and then some of them have, like, you know, names like GP5, which is just easier to say. The gas mask in the Crazies are British Mark V gas masks, where they've taken the hoses off and glued a filter directly to the hose pipe sort of attachment. I'll just keep blocking them over and over again. Ratnik, pretty easy to do. I've had to block a couple of people this stream already for being obvious trolls or just doing stupid stuff. In a sense they're obsolete because everybody just uses smaller filters on the side of masks now. For the most part anyway. I know there's exceptions to that, but for most people a big canister with a hose is actually more practical than a light filter, just because the big canister lasts longer and the weight of it's supported by the satchel rather than it pulling the mask to the side. Favourite submachine gun? Probably the Sterling. What are you on about house on Russian masks? Unless you mean about obsolescence. It's probably the Scott GSR, you know, the one that's in the picture, which is Avon M50 but on the cheap. It depends. In theory, changing cheek filters, because your fingers don't normally bleed after putting a computer together. But saying that, then you can have things with the computer like just random problems where it won't boot up after you've put hardware in, and then troubleshooting for that without an error message takes ages. Cool, yeah. Glad you find the masks interesting, I guess. Alright, okay. I see what you're on about. I think the concept's interesting, but I don't think masks like that will replace actual proper masks. The reason being is just masks like the ROU, you know, obviously are just designed to be very lightweight and foil wrapped. I've not bought one yet because all the ones I've seen have been fairly expensive. And even the ones that aren't too expensive, I worry UK customs will just seize it when I try and buy it. Depends, do you need it? If you need it, then yes. If you have no use for it, then no. Because, you know, you can have it revoked at any time and lose all your money that you paid for on guns. If you don't mind damaging the mask to an extent, get a knife and cut the cheek filter bits on the inside bigger. Then you can make the flap bigger for the cheek filters and you can still secure it with the buttons afterwards. I know that would be sacrilege if it was an actual rare mask, but it was something like an M10, you might as well do that to save yourself a lot of frustration. Because by cutting the flaps bigger, it's much easier to fit the filters in. Yeah, the PPM88 is the mask used in Metro. At least in the first person stuff anyway. Yeah, it depends which 3M mask you're on about. There's lots of 3M masks. If you mean a 3M dust mask, then no. If you mean one of 3M's like full face expensive masks, then that'd be better than the GP5, yes. Well, I haven't been on the gas mask subreddit in a while, because I did have some people inform me earlier and yesterday that it's apparently better than it used to be. But like I say, the issue is if there's too much discussion just about GP5s and is this filter safe, is this filter safe, and that's when I don't find it very interesting. I find it more interesting when people actually talk about masks. VidMe doesn't exist anymore. I used to have a VidMe account and then VidMe went bust. Now I think a Pornhub thing would be a different type of gas mask video, wouldn't it? Well, the thing is I don't really have enough American masks to give you a good opinion on them because they're export banned. So all I can do is say I really like British masks, but I might like some American masks if I can get hold of them. But saying that, the Avon M50 is obviously British, that just America bought to use and manufactures in the American Avon plant. Well, if you have a firearms license, of course you can own ammunition. Otherwise it'd be a bit useless, wouldn't it, if you could have a gun but no ammo. Oh yeah, if you have some sort of violent scenario, having a means to defend yourself is a pretty good thing. Avon M50 or the Canadian C4 are the ones I'm most interested in that I don't have. Funnily enough, I've got one. If you look at my channel, you realise I have quite a few knives. You're gonna get me flicking this now. Oh, it depends which mask it is and how much it costs. And do you want it? That's a lot of factors when it comes to is it worth buying something or not. Favourite Soviet gas mask is the SHMS. I don't know, if you put a bayonet on a gun without ammo, you'd at least have a sort of spear. No idea, because there's like Avon FM54s and things like that, aren't there? But I have no idea what they're capable of, because I've not really looked into them too much, because I can't get one. I already have the Israeli commando knife that Sheffield made, which is pretty much a K-bar, so I don't need an actual K-bar now. I generally prefer little pocket knives because being in the UK I'd rather have knives that I can legally have on me rather than really expensive knives where if they got confiscated you lose them. It's a bit like flicking a Zippo. Yeah, see, that's what I was saying earlier, Jonathan. That's like what my impression of it was whenever I was on there for the most part, sadly. But people kept saying, no, it's much better than that. You're just like stereotyping us. But like I said, it's just the reason I don't go on any of those gas mask forums or discussion boards is generally most of the time whenever I do have a look on there, it is just like you said, it's majority of things that are really boring if you actually are a bit more seriously into collecting them. Because it's like very amateur questions being asked over and over. A bit like, you know, on this stream when you get people asking the same questions over and over. I'll have a look at that thing, Magic Catman. Alright, it's a knife, is it? Oh, so it's actually fixed tang then, is it? Why would that cost £109 though? It better be pretty good. It's 1095 carbon steel, but again, because it's got the K-bar name on it, it costs far more than it should. You could get a very good knife like that for about £20, I reckon, if you knew what you were buying. I made a halberd. Have you not seen my halberd videos? But I didn't make it in the sense, I bought a forged head for it, and then I had to spend ages cutting down an ash pole to mount the head on it. I did a video on that recently, Atomic Commando, watch that. My favourite knife at the moment might be this one, which is a Tangram, sort of just a very nice sort of folding pocket lock knife. It's got ball bearing sort of bits in it so it opens and closes really smoothly. Favourite medieval weapon? That's a tough one because I like a lot of medieval weapons. Falchion swords are some of my favourites, just because it's a sword made for hacking people. But I do like halberds and everything, but probably the English billhook is one of my favourite thing. My favourite memes are probably like the Bogdanovs, and I like Virgin versus Chad. What other ones do I like? But again, it completely depends, because with like any sort of meme you can have funny and non-funny versions of them, depending on how much effort people have done into it and how good the joke is. Right, let me go back to the thing. I got distracted there. Favourite World War I gas mask? Well, I don't own any of them, but probably like the GM17, whichever one it is, the German sort of leather style one with the honeycomb eyes that could take a screw-in filter. In the description, Eagle. What's that, the guy that crashed the plane the other week? No, the dog gas mask thing gets asked every stream as well. I just have a cheap mouse. I have a nice keyboard, but I just have a TechNet mouse because I just use them until they get worn down and get a new one. Because they're very good mice for like 10 quid or whatever they cost. Yeah, the closest thing you can get to animal masks now is just those inflatable little tent things you can put in a room where air is sucked through a filter to inflate the tent, and then it's positive pressure, so the idea is you get your entire family and pets in there in the case of an NBC attack. No, butterfly knives are illegal in the UK. The only thing I've ever had is a trainer which doesn't have a blade in it, it's just like a metal weight. I do have some throwing knives, but I'd have to get into practicing to use them because I'm crap with them. The most modern gas mask, I don't know, you'd have to Google it. Probably like the latest mask developed by Avon or MSA or any of those companies. Or maybe whatever the Chinese have come up with next, which probably won't be very good, but it would still be the most modern gas mask. Flectan. No, I didn't watch it. I have no interest in the royal family. Yeah, I do, but I should do that, Sloosh, but I keep forgetting to do it. Not that I'm aware of how you say it like that. I think the Avon M50's got quick change filters, a bit like the GSRs, but they're not bayonets. Apparently it's a better design that allows more airflow. But, you know, because it's not like an M50 made on a budget, that's probably the reason the M50 is better than the GSR in a lot of ways. No, I don't do trades with masks because I buy them to collect them, not to actually, you know, swap them for other masks. I get asked about trades quite a lot and I have no interest in it. Also means people would get my address, and like I said, don't trust people getting my address. Yeah, I've visited Buckingham Palace before, the outside, obviously not gone inside. But most stately homes don't interest me very much. It's one of those things where if you're around in an area and there's a stately home that's cheap to go in, sometimes they're worth looking at, but I prefer the more like castle kind of stately homes when I visit them, like Glam's Castle in Scotland. That's an interesting one because it's the one where supposedly they played cards with the devil in one room and then bricked it up. I think that's, you know, a fictional story, but there's a bricked up room in there because you can see the window from the outside, but it doesn't correlate with the inside of the building. No, I don't have an air pump baby gas mask, sadly. They're worthwhile if you're in a hot environment or you're taking part in a lot of physical activity, you know, where you're actually going to get hot and bothered and need to hydrate yourself, but for a regular civilian, no, there's no use in you having a drinking tube. No, I would not want to live in London. Thankfully, I don't live in London. If I could, I'd like to move to a really remote place in the UK. Nowhere like London. Well, lots of people think those are like, you know, they're always like, oh, this is a military sweater, but I don't know, but loads of people wear them as civilians because they're just so common as surplus. There's also variants of those which are totally civilian ones. No, I've never heard of him, Eagle. I might swap a single C7 for an Avon M50 if it was like an M50 in really good condition with all the accessories, but like I said, I don't really like to trade things, so yeah, I've been to Dorset. In theory you could, yeah. You just have to have loads of valves in the suit. I guess it would cost loads of money to do that. Yeah, there's a guy who subscribed to me called Daniel, and he's done a load of videos like that. I can't remember his full name of his channel because sometimes he posts, but he did one where he like connected the drinking tube to a water bottle where he made a custom lid for it, and that worked. I like Doctor Strangelove quite a lot, because I like a lot of Stanley Kubrick movies, but I don't know if that would be my all-time favourite movie. Yeah, alright, Peach. As I've said before, probably Maine, just so it's like a colder coastal state. But I have heard from other Americans like saying that Maine isn't the best state in terms of like gun friendliness, but you know, I'd have to move to somewhere where the climate was suitable for me because I don't like hot weather. Isn't that their version of an M9, the M2? Yeah, the Sealand was that little country, wasn't it, on one of those sea forts? Although I don't think it was an internationally recognised country. How many bombs do you think the Soviet Union would have assigned to bombing Sealand in the event of the Cold War going hot? Because the Omega Man's a really cool film. I've never been a massive fan of Shrek. I think it's a good enough film, but it's just, you know, I've never really seen a massive appeal in it myself. Actually, saying that, Della Morte Della More is probably one of my favourite films ever. Alright, cool, see ya. Yeah, see, that sounds ideal. Nobody killing each other and everybody's got a gun. I think Vietnam hasn't it? Like, Vietnam now is actually fairly prosperous in Asia. But that's kind of because after being communist for a while, they just started inviting in lots of capitalist industries. I think obviously Czechoslovakia, as the Czech Republic's done fairly well. But that's probably because most of their infrastructure at the time was, you know, obviously destroyed during World War II, upgraded by the Soviets, and then after the Soviets left, you know, the Czech Republic was its own thing. Obviously not as Czechoslovakia, but Czech Republic, it's a pretty prosperous country now. Yeah, probably something like Arma 2. Yeah, it's a cool beret. There's a couple of different Yugoslav berets. There's like green ones and black ones. Like most nations, they have different berets for different types of soldiers. Right, I won't go on for too much longer because, as I said earlier, I was going to do a shorter stream today, not a long one. I just thought I'd do one while I've got a bit of spare time. I just said about that eagle. Why don't people listen while I'm talking on the stream? I'll get a picture of it up just to confirm it's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, it's the one I'm thinking of. Well, what a surprise. It's like the same as the Serbian M2, the Egyptian M2. No, I've played Kerbal very briefly. I don't own it. I'm not very much into those building game type things. I like the original Lego Creator back from years and years and years ago. Oh, so did he go in the 80s or something and then go back then? I do not speak in received pronunciation. If I spoke in received pronunciation, I would be speaking like this, sir. So no, I don't use received pronunciation. As I said before, because it looks cool. I think you're asking questions to irritate me on purpose now. No, never played Monster Hunter. Let me have a look at French M2 camo then. You know what I'm going to say though? I'm going to say American UCP camo. Well, that French camo looks fine to me. Brown, green, light brown and black. Don't see a problem with that camo. It's when people keep asking the same sort of questions over and over again, even though I'm sure they've asked these questions before or been listening into the stream when I've answered them. I think it's still the same thing that came up, French F2 camo. Yeah, it's still the same pattern. I don't see a problem with that. Looks quite good to me. I mean, as long as you don't get one that's really faded. But the camo itself, the colours are absolutely fine. It's like any of the woodland camos. Splodges are brown, green, and sort of, you know, like I said, the black would be better if it was dark brown or dark green, but still, it's still a fairly effective camo. I don't have a problem with the French, no. You know, I'm a weird person where I don't think, oh no, I hate this country for some reason. If you get what I'm on about. I think Dragon Souls is doing this to be irritating now, isn't he? Because he couldn't look at all my air rifle videos, he's just asking me it. That's not F2 camo then, is it? Because F2 camo, if you Google it, is like a 4-colour camo. Let's look at American OCP. Yeah, that's similar to multi-cam, isn't it? So, of course, it's going to be a better camo. Let me have a look at F1 camo and see if it's coming up with Formula 1 cars covered in camo now. France F1 camouflage might be what you're on about. It's brown, light brown, or like beige, and one shade of pale green. That would be far less effective. Oh, but that's a desert one, so no, that would be fine then, because it's a desert one. Yeah, the ones coming up as French F1 camos are still several shades of colours, so they'd be fine. No, I've not read the Communist Manifesto. I've also not read Mein Kampf. Yeah, Tiger Stripe's fine, but as I've said before, I think it'd be better as a 2-shade of green camo. No, I've never watched Dexter. I don't know what Sheep's laughing at, but it's probably about time to finish the stream now, isn't it? Because it's just gone 9 o'clock. There's also Das Kapital, isn't there, by Marx, which is really long. Favourite SMG was already asked in this very stream. Oh no. Yeah, this is a good time to end the stream, isn't it, when every question's being repeated. Right, so, yeah, let's end this stream here before I start hitting my head into my hand. Sort of wanting to facepalm at some of these comments. Yeah, Das Kapital's a really long one, isn't it? But Marx has no understanding of how economics works, because he thought economics is longer. The more effort somebody puts into something, the more it should cost. He doesn't understand what inefficiency is. Right, bye everybody then.